I understood the importance of the ordination. It was actually then I like kind of like, okay, hang on, I'm going to be ordained as a minister. There is a responsibility for me to take, this on. There's a sense of responsibility. Before that was just a lot about myself.
I was under the assumption that the reverendhood had to do with your time in the Christian religion.
Yeah, no.
They're completely separate and like very spaced apart too, and time-wise. Is this where you were introduced to shamanic work?
I've been drawn to shamanic work too when I was in Malaysia before I came out. Drawn to, but I haven't really experienced it there, right? I bought books, I started reading, I was curious about it. And like I said, I somehow had this affinity to, their teachings. And I would say it's the 2 years where I got to really experience a lot more of it.
What was your exposure to shamanic work in Malaysia?
I like I said, there's no experience. I actually bought books. Somehow I was attracted. I remember buying a book about shamanism. Like, how do you practice, connecting with your spirit animal? And read about it and wanted to practice. Like, I was just drawn, that pretty much on my own. I didn't have any guidance around it in Malaysia, but I was just very drawn to it.
So when I was reading the work of Dr. Brian Weiss, who's very famous for past life regression therapy, he said that when we have a very naturally inclined interest in something that we don't have an explanation for in this lifetime, it usually, or more often than not, can be directly linked to a past life. Having done a lot of past life work yourself, did you get answers when you explore that?
Yes, I know I've been a shaman before. I got to have a glimpse of what happened as a shaman. This was more when I was in South America. And again, this is where, experiences that's coming, there's no explanation behind it. I know I've also done a lot of work in the Tibetan side because I started seeing a lot of Tibetan teachings that are unfolding. Or I have knowings, like things that I started knowing and understanding. And when I started reading more about it, it's like, oh, it's actually Tibetan teaching. That's what's coming true. Yeah, so I have had opportunity to really connect with some of this. I mean, if we are going to talk about all that stories, I have so many stories that you can't explain.
We might have to do another episode just on that.
Right.
I did my shamanic training initially with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, which is similar, except I think it's more North American focused, right, in terms of the different tribes and cultures that they have drawn their teachings from. Their mission is to preserve that knowledge and wisdom. So it's really nice to hear of another organization that's doing something similar. Okay, so you briefly touched on going to South America. What was the story there? Was it also in line with the shamanic studies that you were doing or part of your training?
No, that was more my past life, where I got a glimpse of my past life there. I think it was when I was doing a plant medicine. So I got the glimpse of one of my intention was to go in and find out what is the reason I have a phobia of chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine. People always say, "What? You're afraid of chocolate?" Or so typically, I'll say I have an allergic reaction to it, so it's easier. Then I don't have to explain it, in a long story. But yeah, I have a phobia, and I have had that phobia for a long time. So one of my intent doing the plant medicine was to discover that, and I got to see a glimpse of my lifetime, and I know it's Peru specifically, being a shaman, and then the ceremony, as you know, cacao is a ceremony. And I was just poisoned doing the ceremony at a time.
Interesting. How was the phobia showing up?
I'm afraid of it. I used to, before I had kids, I won't be able even to walk in an aisle in a supermarket where there's chocolate. Like literally, if the aisle has chocolate, I can't walk that aisle. Like that's the extent. If you're taking chocolate close to me, I will stay away. Like I can't even touch it in the past. Over time, I've learned to touch it or make, hot chocolate for my kids because I know I don't want to deprive them of that. But it took me a long time to get over even touching it. Like it was a process, but still at this point, I'm not able to, take it myself. I got better that I can walk the aisle now, but yeah.
What do you feel? Do you just feel some anxiety?
So I took time to examine, and fear is definitely one of the big one. And there was some anger too, when I stepped back to really feel it. Before I had my discovery, like, when I was very more in touch with my emotion already, I took some time and examined it, and I realized fear and anger was the prominent emotions.
Where did you go in South America, and what medicine did you take?
So, I didn't travel to South America. The medicine that I took was here, but it gives me a glimpse of my past life inside that.
Right.
So
What
the
was the
medicine I took
ceremony?
was ayahuasca.
And that was on your first ceremony.
No, I can't remember. Was it the second or the third ceremony? Yeah.
So you've had this inexplicable fear of chocolate and anger towards chocolate your whole life. You do an ayahuasca ceremony and learn about a past life as a shaman, and then you were poisoned in a cacao ceremony. And that translated into a phobia in a different lifetime of chocolate because it killed you.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
As
is,
far as like Zach knew me, I can't be with chocolate. I mean, like it's been since I was really young, from my understanding.
what opened you up to the idea of doing ayahuasca as a medicine ceremony?
Well, I think when I first took it, I was still in my ministerial program. I felt like, so part of one of the modules for us to learn is about the plant medicine. So I did quite a bit of reading and understanding. We have teachers to talk about it, and videos to watch, and Jyoti talks about it too. Ceremonies that people run. Somehow, I think I just felt like I was ready to experience it. I was fortunate. I met a friend at the sound healing program that I was taking, and she sent me an email and said, we're doing a ceremony. Would you be interested? And just timing. And then I took some time to speak to the medicine woman who was running it, just to make sure that she's the right person holding space for the ceremony. And I felt very comfortable with her, and that's how it happened.
So this was in the midst of doing a sound healing training, and sound healing was part of your ministry?
It's a separate. So I was also doing a sound healing certification program while I was doing my ministerial program. And somehow, again, I was drawn to sound. It just, these are things that happens in my life. I get drawn to. I just want to learn it. So I felt called to learn about sound healing. So I met another person who was learning sound healing in that class. She was she was arranging for the ceremony. So she sent out an email, and I decided to take it on.
Where did you end up doing the sound healing training?
In Toronto. So the program is with ITM, the Institute of Traditional Medicine.
How do you feel about people that regard ayahuasca as a method for emotional healing? What are your thoughts on that? Where does it play a role in healing work?
I think that she's a very powerful medicine being. I feel like it's really important, when we do the medicine work, the ceremony, really coming from a space of respect when we're taking her, right? Because she's taking us on a journey. And for me personally, I think it's really important before someone takes it, they really need to know that they're ready for it. So I don't think it's something to take on lightly.
Do you find that it's helpful for healing purposes to have an experience with many different modalities like breathwork, healing, traditional psychotherapy, somatic body therapy, plant medicines? Would that be ideal for the average person that is seeking a healing journey?
I've gone to different practitioners, experiencing different kind of modalities, and I do feel like some resonates with me and some don't. So in that sense, I would encourage, individuals to explore the different modalities that are out there. For example, the body, mind, emotion, spirit work, when you're doing it, all of them, it's a big key in creating a huge shift. So really considering that. I do want to come back to the plant medicine. Yeah, plant medicine is a bit different because the other modalities, if you're doing sound healing or breath work, you can actually say, what, if you're into it for 20 minutes, you could stop the breathing, right? And just say, I'm going to breathe normal. I'm going to get out of this modality right now. I had enough for now. 20 minutes is good, or maybe an hour is good. Sound, same thing. You could just wake up and just get out, or the dance or psychotherapy, right? But with the medicine, once you ingest the medicine, she takes you on. And that journey could last 5-6 hours. It's not like, okay, I want to check it out now. So it's a very different process. So I think it's really important to really know that. And out of all the different healing modalities, I think the key is also the integration after. Because through the different process, you might let go of emotion. There might be more awareness of what had happened. But it's taking all that awareness and information and integrating in your life. It's just like with the medicine. She might give you messages, right? I could just be aware, okay, that's the message for me, but how do I take that and really apply it in my life? I think that's really crucial, the integration piece.
What do you think are some best practices for integrating after a plant medicine ceremony?
I'm going to speak for myself. I think it's important to have some quiet time. Journaling, like I really find that's really important after a plant ceremony. Trusting that the process is still unfolding, not expecting that it has to be this way or that way, like allowing that that's a flow in the unfolding or after the medicine. I think it's important to take care of your well-being after a plant ceremony, allowing yourself, being gentle with yourself, because you might still feel the emotion that's still coming. There might still be more insight that's coming, right? I think that's important. That's kind of what I do, really being gentle with myself. After a ceremony too, one of the things that I like to practice is to, cleanse off the energies that I really don't want. So it could be, I know they do it typically in the ceremony too. They use sage, right, or Palo Santo, but a salt bath would be really, really good, right? Essence bath, all that, So that's kind of what I do. And for me, my integration process takes a while. So I'm aware of also the timeline that I need to allow myself. And so with that, I think the biggest key is being present, like allowing yourself to be present to what is.
Plant medicine or ayahuasca ceremonies are unique in the sense that you're in this quite vulnerable state in a group format when many other modalities are usually solo, especially in therapy practice. So it's really important to have that structure after, where you can come back and integrate and apply the lessons that came up during the experience. So you talked about what you do after. What about preparing for an ayahuasca ceremony? How long do you take? What do you recommend?
As you know, there's diet and all that, so I won't go into the details of that. I think very important is you've got to be very clear of your intention. What's your intent of doing the medicine? Being really clear of your intent, then clarity to bring forth what you're looking for from Mother Ayahuasca. Right? For me, for example, before I go into a ceremony, my intentions for body, I'll talk about, I want to do some healing, some traumas that's in my body. For example, even my intention was to, the question I brought in was, where is my phobia of chocolate came from? Like, I'm very clear of my intention. I'm clear of what some of the questions I want to bring in before I go into a ceremony, so that I know the outcome. Because my experience has been every ceremony that I've done, she's answered my questions. It might not be the way I saw it, but she definitely did answer my question.
That's how I feel as well in my experiences.